Welcome everyone to another edition of Play It Through, and on this edition is Alfred Chicken, brought to us by Mindscape and Twilight Games. Alfred Chicken was one of the last games released for the North American NES, being released in 1994. At the same time, it was also released for the Nintendo Game Boy, had a Super Nintendo version, an Amiga version, and a few other platforms, including a remake of the game that was released later on for the PlayStation 1. The NES game is actually kind of a butchered port of the Game Boy game, featuring of course better graphics being colored, but they actually removed a lot of the levels, including only having 5 levels in this version of the game. It's a pretty simple platformer, but you're going around the levels trying to discover balloons in order to actually complete the level. Once you find all balloons in one level, you move on to the next level. So here we go with Alfred Chicken by Twilight Games for the NES. When you start the game, it's just a basic little screen. You have, of course, press start. You also have, of course, the last score you got, and the current high score, which doesn't take much effort at all during the actual game to get a higher score than what's currently defaultly there, but, of course, once you turn off the game, you lose all that. Now, when you start the game, you can see that you actually have some pretty colorful graphics for the NES, considering this was also a complete port of the Game Boy game. There's some nice little animations also done on Alfred Chicken himself, which adds to just the funness of the game. Your goal, like I mentioned earlier, is the free balloons, and to do so you stand over the panel where a balloon is, and you hit down in order to peck at the balloon in order to free it. While you're jumping around, you can actually hold the jump button in order to float for short distances to help you cover more ground, as well as to come down more slowly. You can also dive bomb while in the air on top of enemies in order to get rid of them. If you press the start menu, you can actually see how many of the balloons you still have left to gather in a particular stage. Most of the levels in the game consist of finding a few balloons and then finding a doorway that you'll have to travel through in order to press a switch or something, allowing you to have access to different areas of places you had already been traveling to. We travel into this room here, and we make our way up to the top, and you can actually see that you have these different things that you can stand on, and when standing on them, it ends up pushing them down, unless they're already on kind of a default track, as you can see with the dotted lines on the one over to that left area. Climb around here and jump on this enemy and then free this balloon before heading back over to the left and dropping downwards. When you do so here, you can take out a few enemies, watch out for the laser firing gun, and then be sure to jump on this switch. You can do so by either just jumping on the button or pressing down to peck at it. Now that we've done that, you can see that these star blocks, which were of course invisible or gone altogether, are now solid and you can actually stand on them. We can then travel back up into the upper right corner and travel back through this door, making our way back to the beginning of the level, and now all the star platforms are here for us to climb up. One of the other key things about the game is there's 4 watering cans. There's 5 stages in total, but only first 4 levels have a watering can. By collecting the watering can, which is a little bit tough to get to in some levels, not this first one as you saw, but if you're able to locate all the watering cans, you get a special bonus ending to the game, which actually, I find the normal ending at least a little bit more conclusive and overall better than the ending you end up getting by finding all the watering cans, but everyone can judge for themselves when we make it to the end. After grabbing the last balloon in a level, you'll fly off holding onto that balloon into the sky, and you end up going to a bonus area. Some of the levels will have a boss battle here, and then other ones will go straight to the area where you're collecting presents by flying all around the space. Collect as many presents as you can for a bonus in points, and then when you reach the top, you'll have a stage clear screen with this giant flower. Kind of a weird game overall. You have watering cans to collect, you're helping a giant flower, you're also trying to save your girlfriend, who I don't think is really mentioned in the game what her name is, as well as you're taking out some weird enemies. You have mice, with, as you can see, with the clockwork equipment on their back. You also have snails, some of which actually have guns on their back. And of course, there's normal pitfalls of most platforms, including spiky balls, spikes of death, and various lasers being fired at you as well. At the beginning of the next level, climb up, grab this balloon, and then go into this door. Work your way over to the right, wake up this bomb, but don't get too close to it once it's awakened, as a countdown will quickly go down to 0, and when it does, it will explode. Then, stand on this number 2 right there at the bottom in order to get a secret block to appear once you jump. You'll then have to springboard off the springs that you see above you, in order to make your way to the top of the screen. Once you're at the top, you'll have 3 doors to choose from. The door that we're going to be choosing, and the one you want to choose, is the letter C. By going in here, you'll go to another secret room that has the location of the watering can for this stage. Once you have it though, you end up going back to the next area of the stage where you need to travel to. And we also start off by getting this can, which gives us this magical beam that flies around us, taking out any enemy it hits. Also, whichever way you're facing will also control which direction the beam is flying around you. You can of course use this to your advantage to take out enemies, especially if it would just barely miss, do a quick turnaround, you can have it come back up and maybe take out a snail or 2. It unfortunately though doesn't last forever and goes away after about a minute or so. We then travel through the door at the end here to make it back actually to the first area we started in, but now we can actually climb up. In the new room, be sure to jump on this button in order to get the star platforms to actually disappear now, and then jump in the water. It's pretty cool seeing Alfred Chicken with the oxygen bottle on his back as well as a pair of goggles, and you can start floating your way downwards. Be careful, of course, of all the rotating spiky balls that you can see either rotating around circular platforms or moving around giant sad-faced clocks. There's also some weird submarine screw-like whales that are moving around back and forth. Thankfully they don't move that fast, and even though Alfred moves really slow in the water, it shouldn't be too much of an effort to actually get around all the perils underwater. After swimming for what seems like forever just to go from one end of the room to the other, we'll make it to the top and be able to free this balloon before entering into the next door. Now we're back out here, and as you can see with the 2 blocks disappeared, this thing ends up moving up and down and allowing us to get to the higher platforms. Of course, you'll want to take your time while making your way up. Be sure though, of course, to free this balloon on the right side before you start bouncing on the giant balls, while you're also dodging all the snails. When you make it to the top, you can free the last balloon, and we move on to the first boss fight of the game. When Alfred gets to a boss fight, he actually transforms into a chicken-like spaceship that allows him to also fire missiles. This part always reminded me a little bit of Super Mario Land. You then have some dialogue with the boss of the game, and you'll be seeing this guy a few times throughout the game. You always know he's near the end of his dialogue because he always likes to laugh. Then the actual fight begins, and you can see his health bar at the bottom of the screen. Every time you do a certain amount of hits to him, another square will turn white. That way you know how many more hits or so that you're going to need to give him in order to take him out. Now he moves just up and down very slowly at first. You can just keep moving left and right, or a little bit farther left or farther right, depending upon whichever direction you would like. Hanging out near the bottom of the screen usually gives me the best opportunity to deliver a lot of hits to him. When he has only 3 squares left, he starts moving a lot faster, so you'll have to back away from him a little bit farther to make sure you don't end up getting hit. Once you deliver the final hit to him though, he'll end up blasting off, and the big part of the ship that he was actually attached to will explode, freeing an egg. Grab the egg and you'll move on to the bonus level again, where you're just collecting some presents before you get to talk to the giant flower at the top. Once you've done so and your score has been racked up, you move on to level 3. Level number 3 is probably my favorite level in the game. Now, at the beginning of this level, climb up, grab the first balloon, and then you'll be in the next room. Don't jump to the skull platforms. Instead, climb up here and jump on this skull platform, and as you can see, when you land on them, they fall apart. However, stand on the middle one and fall straight down. By doing so, you'll be able to safely land through the spikes. Walk over to the left, and you'll walk through the spikes and walk through the floor in order to get to a little bonus area where you'll pick up a telephone for some bonus points, and then you'll actually get a bottle of jam that you'll be able to use as a projectile weapon. Now you need to do this in order to get the watering can for this level. When you get back outside, walk over to the left and you'll fall down, noticing that when you walk through this door, you end up going right just above it where you wouldn't have been able to jump before. Once we go through the door, immediately drop down so you can hit the balloon we couldn't get before, and then, for the third time, go back in this door. Except this time we're now going to be heading straight upwards. As you can see, there's a door on the right side here, and that's where we're going to be heading. But jump all the way to the very top and you'll be able to do this giant crash with the downward spiral here, turning into a plane for a few seconds, allowing you to destroy all the blocks quickly. Stand on this right edge of the platform and throw the projectile you have. This will cause a secret platform to appear with a spring, and way you can get up into the upper left corner and grab yourself another watering can. Don't go through the door though up there, instead drop all the way down, going once again through a ton of different ice blocks, grab yourself another balloon, and then go into the door there. Once in here, you'll find another one of those cans of prunes or kidney beans or whatever they are that'll start rotating around you. Use the magical bean to your advantage to destroy all the ice blocks that are circling around, as well as the snail. Now, you can just destroy these with your normal beak, but of course it goes a lot quicker if you have the rotating kidney bean. Go over to the right side, jumping along the platforms, and when you make it over to the edge, free the balloon, then jump on top of the upper right button, and then hit the one below. This will allow us to be able, once we go through the door, in order to get up on the platform we need to so we can actually make it through the next door. In this room, jump up and over to the right side to get a free extra life as well as some other collectibles, and then start making your way down. Be careful while going through this wooden maze, watching out for the snails on each of one of the levels as well as the nails that may stick out of the ceiling. The snails, you'll have to be careful, sometimes they will stop in mid-place and just all of a sudden send spikes out of their back. Watch out for these and then continue moving down once you can get past them. Free the last balloon that was at the very bottom and move on to the next level. Stage number 4 is the hardest level in the game, because you have a little bit more manipulating you're going to have to learn to do, and that starts with the second room of the level. Here you have different blocks, and when you peck at them, different arrows appear. As you can notice at the very bottom of the screen, you have to move this ball along the track in order to destroy the platforms that are right now blocking the other button that you need to hit. This will take time because sometimes, until you learn which arrows you're going to need to hit and when, you may cause the thing to end up moving back along the track in the opposite direction of where you want. Here's where it gets tricky. You have to time it so that you hit it at the right moment, so you actually send it towards the things you need to destroy. If you let it go too far, you'll end up missing this and have to manipulate it and move it around. Once inside, you'll have to do the same thing. Make it go up just a little bit, and then immediately over to the left to get out of your way so you can get up there and hit the button. Once you've done so, you can go through the door, and you'll be back in the main screen now with all the moon platforms now currently visible. Jump up here from the spring, grab yourself another one of the balloons, and keep working your way up. Bounce off the spring and hold up so you go all the way through all the different ice cubes. Hit the next balloon, and then move your way through all these different cubes down to this door below. Once in here, watch out for this enemy, hit the balloon, and then jump down to the moving platform below you. When it gets over to the right, of course, jump off of it and start making your way up. Up here, you'll have to not only hit the moon button again, but also free a balloon. Once you've done so, drop back down, being careful of the spikes that are below you, and wait for the moving platform to come back towards you so you can jump on it, and now head back over to the left and drop down the little opening that you may have seen before. You'll notice this door, but we won't be able to hit it now. Don't go through this door because literally all it does is loop you right back to the same exact spot you went through the door, so there's no point to doing so. Instead, you once again have to do maneuvering in order to get the spiked ball below you, in order to break all of the mad-faced blocks so you can free the other spiked ball. When you do so, it'll drop down and end up hitting the button, allowing you now to go through the door that was just over to the left. Once you're over here as well, with that moon platforms also being invisible at the time, you'll finally be able to climb up and keep moving on in the level. course, be sure to, once again, hit the balloon, and then start climbing up the right area, watching out for the 2 bombs on the platforms as you do so. Free another balloon, and then drop down to the platform, jumping of course over the spiked ball. Now here's the room where the location of the watering can is. What you'll have to do is you'll have to hit one of these smiley face things, and it'll cause this ball to move. What you need it to do is actually to hit both buttons. Now the only diamond ones are the ones that we see. However, later on we must have the other one hit in order to actually allow us to advance, or you'll have to come back to this room. Break open some of the ice cubes, fall through the floor, and you'll land in another area. You'll have to quickly move along these platforms, watching out for the spikes moving up and down. You can also turn on the radio for some added little fun, and then go through the door on the right side. This will take you to the room with the watering can, the 4th and final watering can, so now we have the best ending unlocked. Once you go through the next door, you'll see another one of those spike balls and another one of those frowny faces. Don't hit the first one, just jump up and free the balloon. Then jump on the moving platform and ride it up to the top. You'll see a button that you're going to need to press, but in order to press the button, what you're going to have to do is get that spike ball up here. Make the frowny faces happy, and then jump over to the left a little bit, allowing the spike ball not to get stuck on a platform below you. Then maneuver it around so it follows you and gets underneath the platform you're standing on, but over the spikes. Then drop it at the very end. This will allow you to go to the next door. Once back out here, you can finally now climb up here. You'll have to wait a little bit for the platform to start moving all the way around, and you'll actually have to jump off of it and jump up into the upper left corner to ride it there, so you can actually make a long enough jump to get to the star blocks just to the right. Doing so, watch out for that last mouse and free the last balloon. By doing so, we move on to another boss fight. This one's a little bit tougher than the last one we fought, but it's pretty much the same ordeal. At the beginning of the fight, just like you did the first time, dodge a couple of these spaceships. Of course, they will explode once they get a certain height on screen, and after 2 sets of these, the actual boss will appear. The boss will give you some dialogue once again, and then the fight will actually begin. Like I said, this fight is more of the same that we dealt with the last time. However, he now has a rotating spike ball moving around him. With this, you can start off by doing pretty much the same thing you did last time, just shooting him a lot when it gets to the low part of the screen. Just moving back and forth left and right, you should be able to get in a nice pattern of avoiding the ball every time, and this works for most of the fight until the speed picks up at the same point that it picked up last time when he has only 3 squares left. Once the speed picks up, you're now going to have to move farther away from him, doing a quick turnaround when he gets low on the screen in order to actually fire at him. Usually I'm only able to get 1 or 2 shots at most into him each time he comes down now, but by moving far enough away from him, you're able to avoid getting hit by him. Once he's destroyed, he'll explode once again, freeing another egg, and then you move on to the bonus collecting of presents. It's now time for the 5th and final level of the game. It starts off with a bunch of snails with cannons on their backs, so be careful not to try to jump on them when they're about to fire. Of course, also watch out for the spikes aligning the ceiling. Now there's no watering can in this level, and this level is kind of just a little bit of an endurance level with some tough little areas for the game's platforming in order to actually just get from the first part of the level to the end and get all the balloons along the path. There's no real branching paths in this stage, it's pretty straightforward, and there's actually only 4 balloons to collect in the level. Free this balloon before going up into the top corner in order to get onto the next door. In the next area, you'll have a very slow-moving spike ball. Jump over the spikes on the bottom in order to get over it, and then just run underneath of it quickly. You'll then drop down to the water again. course, you move pretty slow in the water and you'll have a bunch of things to dodge, but be sure to also jump up here and get the can, so at least you have some protection and some ability to take out some of the enemies that are moving underwater. When you make it over here, of course, just take your time, wait for the right opportunities, and quickly run underneath the spike balls when the opportunity arises. About here, though, the beam will run out, so be careful of the submarine before you end up making it past it to the right side, watching out for one more of those bombs before jumping out of the water. Free the balloon here, and then be sure, of course, to press the button on the left side. Jump over here, make the frown go upside down, and then jump on the star button. You'll have a spike ball that will try to chase you down, so maneuver it away so you can get it stuck in a good area so you actually can get past it. For example, I get stuck here, then move back, hit the smiley face block again, and now it's stuck there so I can actually maneuver past it and get the balloon. Once you grab this balloon, go through the door and you're actually at the last screen of the game. Here, just watch out for the monster masher machine, watching out for all the snails that end up spawning from it, and free the last balloon on top of the machine. Be also sure to hold the right when you do so to grab some extra bonus items of music notes before blasting up into space, and now it's time for the final showdown against the boss. Now this fight is a lot different than the last time. He also has two forms to deal with. What he does is, he starts off by moving really slowly to different areas of the screen. After just a little bit of this, after 2 or 3 of the blocks are taken out, he then starts moving a heck of a lot faster. There's also these question marks that end up appearing all over the place as well that you're going to have to dodge. While it can be a little bit troublesome to actually figure out a pattern here, because he likes to move sporadically, just keep enough distance away so that if he ends up coming towards you, you can escape underneath of him or to the left or right of him. Keep blasting whenever you have a good opportunity to land in a few shots, and once you're able to drain all his health, get ready for the second part of this boss fight. For the second part of the boss fight, he ends up blasting off, but now you have a spike ball that's just going to move back and forth around the room, and you need to attack the moon-like spaceship that's going to start moving towards you. Every time you deliver enough hits to it in order to cause one square to disappear off its health, it ends up firing at you from one of the openings on it. Just keep firing it, as this second form ends up being, I think, easier than the first form, and grab the final egg. When you grab the final egg, you end up falling through a giant room filled with stars. You can just hold down to move through here quickly, or just gather as many stars as you like. Once you land at the bottom, be sure to grab the egg on the far left side and go through the final door to enjoy the ending. After the ending to the game, well, at least the first part of the ending, we then go to our credit screen where you get to see the cast of the game, including who played Alfred Chicken and all that good stuff, as well as you then actually get the real credits of showing who created the game and so forth. Now you may be wondering, of course, what was different between the regular ending and the good ending. Well, that actually doesn't come until the end of the credits, and you get another bonus scene, which is the only thing different between the regular ending and this supposed complete or good ending. While Alfred Chicken may not be that fondly remembered because it was released so late in the NES library, and its other versions was mainly released in Europe, and even the ones in North America I don't necessarily remember being too popular. Alfred Chicken's still a pretty fun game. I'm actually surprised while I was playing it for this video of actually how much fun I actually had playing it. At the end of the credits, you get your thanks for playing screen, and after a few seconds of this, it then shows you the little bonus. So there you have it. In the end, you find out the female chicken you saved and your love interest was actually a evil robot that you've been fighting the whole game, and then it has a to be continued screen. Now, they never made a direct sequel to the game, though there were different versions. The Super Nintendo version is kind of a sequel, and then there was a much later released PlayStation 1 version in Europe that was a completely different game overall, so they never really made a sequel, so unfortunately, I end up not liking another ending where you have just a to be continued just for the sake of it. When the game kind of came to a conclusion, you ended up saving the girl, and everything should have just been a-okay. Like I said, the only difference between the regular ending and this ending was that bonus scene at the end, and instead, when you finish the game without the watering cans, you just get that normal ending, and then it tells you, hey, you didn't find all the watering cans. Go back and find them, and you get the other ending. But anyway, that's going to wrap up this edition of Play It Through. I'd like to thank you for watching, and of course, I hope you enjoyed.